Hello, everyone, and welcome to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the show that talks about sports and other topics relatable to sports fans. Joining me again this week is co-host Scott Blander in Pennsylvania. Scott, can you hear me? All right. So, difficulty going on. So, we are going to open the show talking about a hot topic that I personally was trying to avoid because it's not exactly sports related, but we have the Brittany Griner trial that ended up having a sentence today of 9 years in prison. It's a long-going issue that's been all over the news, and do we have Scott over there or no?
Yep, I got you now. We're good
Oh,
now.
okay, great. All right. So we're gonna start off with the Brittany Granger. So just a brief story. February 17th, she ended up getting detained in Russia because she had a cannabis substance, and she's been in jail ever since. Pleads and cries for her to come back to America from the WNBA and all different kinds of supports going through over there. And then, so Scott, what do you think about this hot button topic, and where are we going from here?
Well, I wouldn't worry about the 9 year. I mean, the whole thing is a dog and pony show. The whole thing's a political circus. She's basically being used as a pawn with what's going on with tensions high with Russia and the Ukraine thing and all that. That being said, she's not exactly a victim, and I'm getting tired of hearing this wrongfully detained and this and that. I mean, she broke their laws. I mean, first of all, she was in, I don't even fly domestically in the United States with a weed pen, let alone a hostile country like Russia, and not learn, look up what the laws are. So she's not exactly, innocent here. That being said, yeah, what's going on with her, she's, Vladimir Putin is using her as a political pawn. So, just showing her off, basically. And I have, the 9 years. I'm sure she'll be home in a few months with, they're going to do a prisoner swap. With their Paul Whelan is a U.S. Marine who's over there. I mean, it sucks that it took a professional athlete to get the diplomatic channels rolling, get a United States Marine home. But that being said, that's the way this country works, professional athletes, privilege, all that good stuff. So, yes, 9 years for a weed pen or whatever, hash oil, whatever it is she had, that's kind of ridiculous, but that's just Putin grandstanding. And, they had to slap on a heavy sentence to, make the trade duty. And she's not going to be there for more than a couple of months, really. That's my opinion, realistically speaking. There will be a prisoner swap. Unfortunately, yes, we will be getting, hopefully, a United States Marine back, but we're also going to be giving Russia, one of the biggest ruthless international arms dealers in recent memory, for a Marine and a WNBA player. And another thing I'm getting tired of hearing is some people, not a lot, but some people are starting to talk about the disparagement of pay between the men and the women. Like, come on, the WNBA loses money and would have folded years ago if not for the NBA subsidizing it. I saw a graphic the other day that LeBron James makes more than all the salaries of the WNBA combined. Well, that's not sexism. That's basic economics. The NBA makes billions and billions of dollars, and LeBron James, love him or hate him, is the driving force behind that. You get paid based on the value of your product, and the WNBA has no value as a product. It just doesn't. That's not sexism. That's just economics. Nobody watches it. Nobody goes. Nobody buys jerseys. So. So I don't want to hear that she's, can't live on $220,000 a year, so she had to go to Russia to play. Give me $220,000 a year starting tomorrow. I'll live on it. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I think it's a very unfortunate situation, and I have to agree with a lot of your points. And this is, I think this is going to be a situation that if it ended up going to the term, by the time the ninth year came along, like they'll probably have it legalized, or it'll be pretty much old news at that point, which is what ended up happening with a lot of Americans that ended up being detained for marijuana, and then like now it's legal, so it's like just a weird thing. So it's unfortunate that it takes some things that seem so innocent, and not really, it's not like she had that like to throw a bomb somewhere, you know what I'm saying, like somewhere in Russia,
Yeah,
like it's
we're
just
not talking about a
like
kilo of heroin here. It was
yeah,
like a
like
one
what.
single use weed pen. So yes, it's definitely excessive, and it's definitely she's unfortunately being played politics with. But if you're gonna go, we have no business going to Russia. I mean, I realized she was playing ball there, but the State Department said don't go to Russia to anyone, United States citizen, given what was about to happen there. She went, and you know what? You might want to check the laws first. As ridiculous as it is, you
Yeah,
might want to check their laws first before you go to a
yeah, I'm
country,
sure.
any country, let alone Russia.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue though. I mean, international, everybody has different rules. That's why, I mean, me personally, I don't like traveling international for most of those reasons, and it's pretty crazy that it ended up happening that way. And then there has to be a trade going on. It's a crazy political ridiculous situation going on. But hopefully it ends up getting resolved soon. But I mean, she did end up doing it, so that's I'm sure everybody is learning a lesson from this one. Make sure you check the rules before you go international, and don't play around with it, because even somebody high profile like that, well, I mean high-ish profile, I'm not gonna say. And then yeah, well, to speak on your point where you were saying like if it was an NBA player they'd be home already. I mean, I don't know if LeBron James using any kind of weed pen or anything, so it just I don't think there's much of a double standard thing. I think some people just complain just for the sake of complaining and say whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
And like it even came out, like the WNBA doesn't get enough support, and then like women don't support it. Like if all the women in the country ended up like flocking toward the WNBA and like loving it the same way that when an Asian player plays in the NBA, and like you get like this whole population of people that comes in to watch the games and support the player that normally would not have been doing it, they'd have more money. It's a revenue business, like you said, so they'd have to generate more revenue to make it happen. I mean, that's why basketball players get more money than heart surgeons. Like heart surgeons are over here saving lives, and basketball players are throwing a ball through a hoop. you know.
I'm curious to know what kind of effect. I think that this is going to lead to a not huge. I don't think it's going to turn them from the red into the black as far as revenue. But I bet you that, because there's obviously a lot of attention going on in the WNBA, right? More attention than the WNBA has ever had. It's a shame that it took such a negative, high-profile event like this to get the WNBA on the front page of every paper. But I'm wondering if you are going to see some kind of uptick in attendance and whatnot. And I'll tell you right now, if she does get released, whenever she makes her WNBA return, I don't know if I want to go out on a limb and use the word sellout for their first home game. I think, what is it, Phoenix? But there's going to be a lot more people in the seats when she makes her debut than there were. It's going to go from 312 to 4,000.
Yeah, if there ends up being a positive at the end of the tunnel for this, I mean, you can only imagine the agony that she's going through. Just for like a personal pleasure. It's like pretty much getting locked up, for like a can of beer or something, like
Yeah.
or pretty much the equivalent in America. But then, when it comes to international times, like everybody takes it differently. So definitely need to look up the rules before you end up traveling if you're going to be doing something that might be a little shady.
Yeah. Yeah, especially a country like Russia. You go to Canada. Well, it's legal there, but I'm saying you go to a friendly nation like Canada, France, Western Europe or whatnot. it's a whole other story. But Russia, of all countries, like, come on, might as well try and bring it into North Korea.
I know, right? And then like then just one more thought on this. You have like Joe Biden, pretty much beating his chest saying that this is like, a wrongful conviction and everything like that. Like I don't think poking the bear really is a thing here to be doing. You have somebody, but the people that are looking to trade over here are, here, and they've been here since the time that they grabbed them, and not even mentioned, publicly or like pretty much like a widespread news thing. And then you have, like you're coming out and you're saying that, you're saying all these things bad about Russia and how it happened. I mean, unfortunately Granger broke the law. So it's like, you can't, like, it's not like they made it up. Like now that, they're dropping the hammer really hard and, all these other things. But, I don't think they should be kind of going at a war of words in this point. I think they should just, pretty much make this deal, make it peacefully. And, everybody gets on with their lives.
Yep. No. Agreed. Yeah. Like you used the perfect term, poking the bear. Just let the diplomatic channels play out. I'm sure that there are plenty of diplomats on both sides actively negotiating the swap, and we don't need you don't need the president throwing a wrench into the works by calling him out. I mean, he could turn around and say, what, deal's off. You never know with this guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just, make it happen, and that's it.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to turn the page on here, and then we're going to get back to actual sports and sports world. So Major League Baseball, we had a flurry of trade deadline deals, some big ones, some not big ones, a lot of tweaks and like pretty much depth players getting tossed around back and forth. And there were actually some deals that where it seemed like some contenders were trading between each other and not just your mostly classic buyer versus seller kind of deal with teams like that are fully entrenched in playoff baseball or in line to go into playoff baseball, trading with the lower level non-playoff projected teams. Um, and then we had some that, yeah, just everybody just helping each other out. Like there were some deals that were actually division rivals were like in between, and like everybody trying to get better. I thought that was pretty interesting. But what we're looking at, we're gonna look at it locally first. We'll start off with the New York Mets, since we usually always start off with the Yankees. So we got the New York Mets over here. They ended up trading for utility outfielder Darren Ruff and Michael Gibbons from the Cubs, relief pitcher. A lot of what the Mets actually kind of like their trade line acquisitions, their best ones might just be in the form of a trade deadline acquisition, but actually people just coming back from injury. They had Max Scherzer has made a couple starts since coming back, and then the long-awaited Jacob DeGrom finally after about a year being on the shelf with various injuries. He ends up coming back through one start. I think he has like a second start coming up. Well, he's definitely have to be in this massive 5-game series coming up with the Atlanta Braves. But what do you feel about the Mets, their chances? I know they made a couple of other tweak deals, but what do you see going on?
Yeah, well, my favorite pickup is Dan Vogelbach, and he's a guy that I remember I was talking to my Pittsburgh friends. They liked him a lot, kind of like one of those. I don't know how to compare him to like a Matt Zuccarello type of baseball player. Not going to be in the MVP conversation, but a fan favorite. And I don't know if you've seen this guy, six foot even, 270. I love the guy because we basically have the same body. He's a couple inches taller than me, but we got the same girth anyway. Dude comes in. I mean, he comes up to the plate for the first time, and I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, are you kidding me? And then it's two doubles and a walk in his first game. I'm like, I love this guy. And he had a grand slam last night. I'm absolutely getting his jersey. You know me, I always, I don't go for the top guy on the team jerseys. I always go for something middle of the road that nobody else has. And I want to be the first one on the block to get a Dan Vogelbach jersey because I absolutely love this guy.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw him during the Yankee series, and I was also taken aback because it's not your classic baseball player or multi-million-dollar athlete look, but definitely if you can hit a baseball and do your thing, he definitely looks like he's a good fit there. And then like definitely the popularity aspect would be good. He looks like a like for the older crowd, like your frat house, Animal House kind of look to him. It's just it's a pretty good vibe. It looks like everybody's getting it. And like as far as the Mets fan base goes, like I think they're one of the more like inclusive ones in the league, and I think that once one person starts like some kind of chant or anything like fun kind of buzz, everybody gets involved with it, and everybody's just doing it throughout the games, and there's definitely a very very big fan following already for this guy, and then he ends up hitting a grand slam yesterday, like you said, which is really cool. Um, so you have your things there. So basically, the Mets are in a position where they just like they were pretty good already. They are what is it, 66-38. They've been leading wire to wire throughout the whole season, pretty much. I think I want to say their lead was in double digits at some point in this season, but right now it's a 3.5 game lead over the Atlanta Braves, and there's a 5 game series coming out. Was original 4 game series, and then they one doubleheader got thrown in there. So, what do you feel about going into the series, and what do you how do you think the Mets are gonna? What record do you think they're gonna come out of this series with?
Well, realistically speaking, I think it's going to be 3-2, one way or the other. The Mets have a chance if they can go at least 5-0. If the Mets get all, it's not going to happen. But if the Mets can go 5-0, it pretty much puts the division away. But we're going to find out what the Mets are made of. They had a nice little run. They had a 7-game win streak, rebounded with a loss the other night. And, DeGrom came back's first start and was, the Mets gave him the most Mets welcome back of all time. Pitches 5 beautiful innings in 1 run, and they get no runs themselves to help him out. So welcome back, Jake DeGrom. Nothing's changed. But the good news is he did pitch well. And I think that, Scherzer came back and he's been – he hasn't lost a step, so that's good. Anytime you have one of these, long injuries, specifically for a pitcher, you're worried about what you're going to get when they come back. So Scherzer is there. DeGrom looked very, very good in his first start, so that's the good news. Because if DeGrom is back to in 90% of what he was, then you've got like you said, a wire first place team that now all of a sudden has arguably the best 1-2 combo in the league. And I think the Mets will go. The Mets will go as far as the two of them will take them. And this is they had a nice run here. Mostly bad teams, but you play to the schedule you have. You get the Marlins, three games, swept them on the road. 2 out of 3 from Washington. I'm okay with that. And, took both from the Yankees. That was nice. So now it gets real. We got 5 games with the Braves at Citi Field. The Mets have a real chance to make a statement here. 3.5 games up. And it was down to 1.5. So they did. The problem is the Braves aren't losing either. The Mets lost a double-digit lead, down to 1.5, but they held on, got it back to 3.5 because the Braves chose to get hot around the 10 time the Mets did. But now we got a nice 5-game set here. This is going to be very exciting. I think realistically speaking, it's going to be 3-2. I was going to say it could probably be 3-2 either way, but I'll say 3-2 Mets. I think the Mets take 3 out of 5. Hopefully add a game, and then you got a 4-game set in Atlanta coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. So 9 games, Mets Braves, that could very well decide this. We could have this division decided one way or the other by August 15th. So I'm very excited for the weekend. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Mets. I've seen a bunch of power rankings, which exactly doesn't really prove a whole hell of a lot, but it is some kind of a gauge, and where people feel like the top teams in baseball are. Usually, mostly just opinion based, but the Mets have been pretty much in the top 5 all year throughout all the different power rankings that you see out there. From ESPN and whoever else, MLB.com and stuff like that. And and this was without their two pretty much future Hall of Famer, elite pitchers. So now they're getting those guys back. So basically, you should see a jump in their power rankings overall. And if they're able, if they end up, taking 4 out of 5 in this Brave series, that'll really put them. I think that'll put them into a much higher ranking overall. And I think more of Major League Baseball will start taking notice of what this team is actually accomplishing in Queens this year. And I'm gonna take the. I'm actually going to just take the Braves because why not? I think I think 3-2 Braves. But just in a 3-2 model, the only thing it's going to be just a 1-game swing going back and forth. So it wouldn't, like, in the grand scheme of it all, I don't think it would be that big of a series. But as far as like where fans are and mojo and the fact that the Braves are actually the defending world champions, we didn't even say that yet throughout this whole time talking about them. So it'd be interesting to see what happened there. Now the Braves, they ended up adding some pitching. They added a closer, Raisel Iglesias from the Angels, and Jake Odorizzi from the Astros, in a weird deal that the contender to contender deal. That, one of the ones I was talking about earlier. But they are defending world champions. They have a very potent lineup. And then one more point on the Jacob deGrom thing. I think there was actually a stat I saw today where the Mets are 47-46 since 2018 in his starts. Now, the team that is constructed today, as opposed to the ones that have been constructed in those, let's say, 3 of those 4 seasons that are that have been highlighted, they're basically way different than what he was dealing with. I mean, in 2018 and 2019. I mean, this is a more potent offense that the New York Mets are displaying now, and I don't think it's I think as far as the fans go and like, oh well, here we go again, same old Mets kind of deal when it comes to Jacob deGrom. But I think moving forward, I don't think that'll be happening as regularly as it has been. I think that was just kind of one of those games. But I'd say in 6 of those starts, if Jacob deGrom still pitches good, he's going to end up winning 5 of those 6 games, because this is not the same old New York Mets team that we've seen throughout the course of the past decade or so. But there's also the factor of are they like different in the fact that they're going to have playoff success and go deep into the playoffs. That remains to be seen. But this is not your like 2 or 3 run. Jacob deGrom basically has to give up 1 or 2 runs in a game. Like, this is not those New York Mets from those days.
Yeah, no doubt. This is he got a raw deal with the 2 years he won the Cy Young, because the Mets just weren't a playoff team. He did his job. They just couldn't give him any run support. You remember, years ago, where Randy Johnson had a similar year wherever he was. I think it was in Arizona. I don't know if it was before or after the World Series team, but he was just pitching lights out every game, and couldn't get a win. So you're on a non-playoff team. The runs weren't there. Now, what happened the other night? The Mets had won 7 in a row. They put up 7 runs the game before, 9 the game before that. Just the law of averages says the bats were going to cool off a game, and it just happened to be against deGrom. So yeah, we could joke with deGrom deGrom's return. So yeah, we can joke about it with same old Mets with deGrom pitching, yes, but I think that was just a fluke. And I think if deGrom pitches the game before with Scherzer, they're going to score those runs, or the game afterwards where they put up 9. Just 7-game win streak. You're going to lose a game eventually. The bats are going to cool off for a night, even against a terrible team like Washington. And it just happened to be on deGrom's return. But the most important thing to take away from that game is that deGrom did look good. Pitched 5 great innings, only let up 1 run. So that's, that we were all on, pins and needles to see what kind of DeGrom we're going to get back after that surgery. And, he was very, very good. So that's the important thing. I'm going to go out I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to predict they're going to get him some run support next game, and he's going to win 13-1 in the next game he pitches.
All right. So
he's pitching against the Braves, isn't he? Oh, he's playing. He's pitching against Philly. Yeah, 13-1.
yeah. Well,
no, he's pitching against the Braves. I'm sorry, he's pitching Sunday.
I don't know. The Phillies are climbing back into relevancy, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So now we're going to segue to the other local baseball team, the New York Yankees. They ended up making some deals. One of them that was pretty funny was that they ended up trading Joey Gallo to the Dodgers. They actually got number 15 prospect in the organization from the Dodgers from New York. And for what Joey Gallo was actually producing, I mean, they're lucky they got anything for him or even somebody to take him. But, Joey Gallo is still young. He was good in Texas, even though his batting average seems to be a little always a bit off. But he was just pretty much historically bad in New York, which sucks because he actually is like he grew up a New York Yankees fan and kind of like living the dream. And I don't know if it was just the pressure or what it was, but he was just a strikeout machine. And, he ends up going over to the Dodgers, adding some outfield insurance to the Dodgers because they've had some injuries over there. And I think it's good that trade ended up happening. There was actually a quote. I'm not sure if it was real or not, but said that, he's good with the Dodgers and he'll be happy to beat the Yankees in the World Series. I don't know if that was true or not. I hope that's not true because, I mean, that in 167, like, I mean, where can you go where that's actually okay? Like, even if you think about baseball and like in life itself, and if you're a 300 hitter, you're basically failing 7 out of 10 times and hitting, being successful 3 out of those 10 times. So at this point, you're not even, you're successful like 1.5 times out of 20 or something. It's awful, man. Like, just stop. So that ended up happening. Sour grapes is understandable, but he has to understand that his performance was just awful. I'm sure he knows that. So the Yankees ended up grabbing one of the big fish starting pitchers in Frankie Montas from the A's, and they acquired 2 relief pitchers, Lou Trevino and Scott Effers, from the Cubs. One of the interesting aspects of this, which is great, Yankees add starting pitching, which is great, and the starting pitching has actually been one of the major strengths of this season so far. Before a couple of pitchers, namely Jamison Talent and Jordan Montgomery, they've been struggling a little bit recently. But then they ended up trading Jordan Montgomery to the Cardinals for an outfielder that is not even healthy right now, but is a defensive dynamo when he is healthy. But I don't understand why they ended up there's always a premium for starting pitching depth, and the Yankees ended up getting one pitcher and then trading another one away. What do you think about that?
Well, if the Yankees felt that they did not have the starting pitching that they liked, to make a World Series run, and let's make no mistake here, this is a World Series or bust team.
Always.
Did you agree? I didn't catch that.
Always.
Yeah. Well, always. Yes. That's the. Must be nice being a Yankee fan.
Sometimes.
For me, I'm coming up with my once every 10 years playoff appearance for the Mets here, so I'm excited about that. But it must be nice to expect the World Series every spring training. But I mean. I hate the term exceeded expectations. You heard that. I know I use a lot of hockey and Rangers analogies for sport, but like the Rangers, for example, rebuilding and all of a sudden came out of nowhere, and we were happy to be a playoff team, and then all of a sudden you're in the conference finals. Even as a Ranger fan, I hate that term. I hate the exceeding expectations. It proved that they deserved to be there and they had a legit chance to win it. So the Yankees, same thing. I think, I'm hearing Yankee fans saying, well, they exceeded expectations. I didn't expect to, be vying for the best record in the league. But you know what? You're here. So now, again, it is World Series or bust for this team with the numbers they're putting up. And if I wasn't too other than Garrett Cole, I wasn't too familiar with staff and how good or bad the rest of their staff was. So if you as a Yankee fan are telling me that they made these trades and got better, then I will believe that. And and I have been hearing, yes, that as far as the teams at the deadline, they did have a very good deadline of trade to keep up their team and make that final push. So it definitely appears like they made some good moves. And I want to ask you, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and the Yankees, and obviously, addition by subtraction with getting Gallo out of the lineup, but I had said with all the home runs that they're hitting, and obviously, Aaron Judge is just on fire. You were worried about. I had asked you if you were worried about their ability to play small ball and manufacture runs, and because as was their undoing in 2018. You since it's got to be at least, I guess, a month or so when we brought that up. Are you seeing an improvement on that, or is that still a concern of yours?
Yeah, I think it's all the same thing. I think if you look at the averages, their homers are, they're scoring their runs 50% of the time from home runs, whether it be solo, 1 run, 2 run. And you look at Aaron Judge. I mean, Aaron Judge, he doesn't have over 100 RBIs yet. I think he's like, I want to say 89 or something like that. And then he has like 43 home runs. So that'll tell you right there. There's not enough runners on base for his home runs. Because if you look, historically at seasons, he ends up doing this, in April. I mean, in August, where like usually it takes a whole full season to get to 40, or even get close to 40. So it's a bit of a different gauge, but his RBI total you would think would be more with that many home runs. It's almost like it's 2 for 1 on average. So that'll tell you there's not enough runners on base for his home runs, and I think just in general, uh, they need to have a more consistent offense where they're able to score runs while not needing to have that. And then, like from our last conversation, I think this was before they got no hit actually. So, you go into an Astros series where you pretty much had to have some heroics to end up getting a couple games from there, and then you had a doubleheader with them coming out of the All Star break. You lose both of those. You go up against the Mets, one of them being Max Scherzer, and that actually what was it? Taijuan Walker. He had a pretty good season going in. Had a quality start against the Yankees, but not exactly a super top flight pitcher, but you end up losing both of those games. It seems like when they play like the top pitcher, actually yesterday too, Luis Castillo ends up being one of the big trade acquisitions for the Seattle Mariners. Comes in and outperforms Garrett Cole, who ended up giving up 6 runs in the early innings. Like somebody who is an ace shouldn't be doing, but it seems like whenever they play like a really, really top flight pitcher, they either struggle and barely win or do not win. So that's something that when you talk about October baseball, it's going to be a glaring. It's going to be under the microscope, and they're going to have to clean that up if they end up wanting to have a deep October run. But one thing I will say, what you said before about the exceeding expectations, I think the pitching is exceeding expectations because that was always like the thing. Oh, we need more pitching. We need more pitching. I'm sure every team kind of feels like they need more pitching, but yeah, the fact that they didn't really have like those huge names other than Garrett Cole and uh, Aroldis Chapman, who are actually not playing up to the star potentials respectively, but everybody else, like Nestor Cortez and Jordan Montgomery was doing pretty well for a while. And all these other unsung heroes, they ended up losing Michael King, who was a big bullpen weapon. Clay Holmes, who actually took over the closer role and made the All Star team as a closer. You have these kind of unsung heroes that are pitching really well and allowing the Yankees to be at the top of Major League Baseball. That is the exceeding expectation part. As far as the offense goes, the offense is doing what it's doing, and it just needs to continue on. But they definitely, one of the problems that the New York Yankees have had pretty much since 2009 has been the hitting in October. So that's what they're gonna have to do, and that's what they're gonna have to prove. And there's no tangible way to prove it until October comes. But I'm gonna say I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not gonna say, oh, this is the year. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm not on that yet. We have to wait until October. A couple games in there when it's nice and cold. Are they gonna be able to hit this top flight pitching? That's gonna be the key to everything.
Let me ask you one more question. How confident are you in Garrett Cole? Looking at his numbers right now, I mean, yeah, one game. Yesterday, yeah, he got lit up, but that was one game. It happened, so be it. But 9-4, which is a decent record. But of course, when you're on the Yankees, winning like they are, the wins and losses is not a real indicator of the pitching. What might is a concern? 3.56 ERA. Which is higher than it was last year. Last year he was 16-8 with a 3.23. And I remember in the show that we were doing after the 1 game playoff with Boston, where I had said, Garrett Cole comes in here as the ace, signs this ridiculous contract. He's in there for one reason, to win that 1 game against Boston in a 1 game playoff, and he didn't. So my the question is now with an ERA actually higher than it was last year, 3.56. It's not all that impressive. How confident are you in your ace?
I'm gonna say 9-4, 3.56. Not bad for somebody who's just a regular starting pitcher. Somebody who's like a top flight $300 million pitcher skewers that opinion, because obviously it shouldn't be that way. He should be, top flight. He did make the All-Star team, which is one thing. I think, those are solid numbers, but for his price tag, definitely should be a lot higher. I think he struggled in the beginning of the season, and then, he really dominates, but he dominates like the lower level teams. Like he doesn't really. I wouldn't say like when the competition's a little higher, I don't really see there hasn't been many starts where he's like beating like the elite teams, like let's say an Astros or something like that, and only holding them to 1 run over 7 innings and stuff like that. Like those are top flight pitching numbers. So the jury's out on that. I'm not gonna say I'm 100% confident in him, but I think he's still adjusting. And there is potential for him to be that great, but man, he's gonna have to start delivering. He's gonna have to start delivering those 7 innings, 8 innings, 1 or 2 runs against top flight teams. That is the expectation. That's what it's gonna take to beat those teams, and he has to start doing that. Until he does that regularly, there's always gonna be question marks about him.
Okay, that's an answer. Fair enough.
So we're gonna look around the league. We got we got a couple of interest. It seems the American League East has a lot more congestion and fluidity with the rankings. We got the Yankees, and then we have Toronto that's 3 games behind the Yankees. The Rays are Toronto's 11 games behind the Yankees, but 3 games up in the wild card race, and then the Rays are in the second wild card spot right now. Baltimore is a game and a half behind, and the Red Sox are 3 games behind. So the AL East, the only division where everybody's at 500 or better. What do you think about this division and who's going to go where?
Which division did you say? Did you say the AL East?
AL East, yeah. So we got Yankees, Toronto, Tampa Bay Rays, Baltimore Orioles, Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, it is certainly an interesting division because nobody's really out of it. Good for the Orioles, first of all, because the Orioles have been not only been the doormat for that division, not only have been a doormat for baseball, but the Orioles have pretty much been up there with like Phoenix Coyotes conversation of just doormats in all of sports. So good for them. They put together, what was it, like an 11-game win streak, something like that? Yeah. They're on a 3-game win streak now. They've actually put the Boston Red Sox in the cellar. You must be happy to see. But you've got the entire division nobody's under 500. You got the Red Sox at 53 and 53, and then the Orioles 54, 51, and then it only gets better from there. So I remember we were having this conversation a few weeks ago, and I think you asked the question, what was the best division of baseball, the AL East or the NL West? And at the time, I remember looking at the AL East and saying, well, it's just the Yankees and who else? But now, it's everybody's winning right now in that division, and everybody is alive for the wild card. That's the most that we're looking at the wild card standings right now. Everybody in that division is alive for the wild card. The Orioles are only 1.5 out of that wild card. The Red Sox are only 3 games out. So all right. So now you got a point a couple weeks later. So yeah, the AL East, I'm going to put them as the best division of baseball right now, just because I've never really seen that kind of parity from top to bottom. I think it's safe to say the Yankees are pulling away. I know that Toronto is somewhat hanging around, but I think there's a lot of baseball left, sure, but I think they have chopped it down from like 14.5 to 11, but I don't really see. I know that stranger things have happened, throughout history, but I don't see the Yankees blowing that lead. But you got the entire rest of the division all competing for wild cards. It's pretty wild. I can't even remember the last time that you could say every single team in the division as of August 4th was still alive. So definitely interesting. And you got to be pulling for the Orioles at this point.
Yeah, definitely. The Yankees are not going to blow this lead. I think their main concern is just getting home field over everybody. They're going to get it in the first round, winning the AL East. Their biggest concern is just staying above Houston, because we all know what happens when series go 3-2 back to Houston and they end up not coming back with the win. So we have it was an interesting trade deadline. I think, looking at the deals, Toronto made a bunch of tweak improvements, not really anything earth shattering. The Rays, just completely defy logic every year on how they're really good, because they don't have the big names. They just draft really well, and then they end up making the trades for them when they get too expensive. But then they draft better players, and it's just like their drafts, their scouting system is just top notch. Baltimore ended up having more of a seller deadline deal. I think they kind of just know where they're at. They're happy where they're at right now, and still looking toward the future. And then there's the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox made a bunch of different deals. The one trade that they did not make was trading JD Martinez, who was widely speculated as being traded, and they're kind of in that middle. Like, they're 500 right now. They were really good at one point in the season. Well, I'd say they started off the season really poorly. Then they rode the ship, and then they had a bunch of wins in a row. And then they ended up going through a lull again. This current lull was just a beatdown where they had like a 50-run differential after 5 games, which is pretty crazy. But they were kind of like in that in between. Like, what do we do? Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Do we stay in the playoff race, or do we bow out? And just, pride in the fan base. Anybody will tell you, like, they're not gonna bow out, intentionally. So they ended up holding on to JD Martinez, which I was surprised about. So just as far as the deadline goes, it's going to be tough to see. The deadline deals, how beneficial it was, and you're going to look back at the end of the season, or should they have stayed pat? Should they have just sold? So it'll be interesting to see how that all ends up playing out. But I definitely see Toronto and the Rays taking these playoffs, the last play-in game spots. Baltimore, I think, ends up still doing well, but they're happy where they're at, and then they're still building toward the future. And the Boston Red Sox are still going to be just, I think, 500. I don't think they stay in the cellar. I think they'll be there's other ebbs and flows of the season that'll end up happening, but I think they'll end up overall regretting trading JD Martinez, especially when you see a lot of these other deals that ended up transpiring, and then you have a former MVP. Definitely could have got a big haul for that toward the future.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, this is a Red Sox team. I'm not sure, how their roster compares to last year, but this is a Red Sox team that came very, very close to winning the World Series last year. So, um, in every sport, the name of the game is just get in. We've seen not one but two Giants Super Bowl champion teams in recent history that pretty much had no business making the playoffs, let alone doing what they did. So, I mean, again, I'm just, other sport metaphors, but just, get in is the name of the game, and you never know. The Red Sox are shortly experienced, in playoffs. So, that they got that going for them if they get in. They haven't really, they're down to 500 right now. But even when they were, making, I guess, their best run of the season a couple months ago, they never really got more than a few games over 500. I mean, I know it was pretty sure it was less than 10. So they haven't exactly been, impressive even when they were their most impressive. So probably not their year, but again, here we are with about 55 or so games left, and there are 3 games out of a playoff spot. So you never know. But on paper, I just don't see them as being any kind of a contender. And yes, I agree with you that Toronto and Tampa, I think, again, even though they're not much ahead of them in the standings, I think they are significantly better teams.
Yeah, I'd say I'd say the Orioles and Red Sox kind of for different reasons kind of in the same boat, and they just went different directions. The Red Sox didn't do everything they could to maximize their deals as a seller because they're kind of just in between. They don't really know where to go. While the Baltimore Orioles did make some deals to improve. I'm sure they have a really thick farm system with all the losing that they've had throughout the past couple of decades. And then they ended up selling off to get more prospects in a couple other deals. So we'll skip around on this one. We have to talk about the biggest deal of the deadline, which was superstar outfielder Juan Soto from the Washington Nationals. He ends up getting traded with Josh Bell from the Nationals to the Padres for 5 prospects. It was from the Padres system. Their number 1, 2, 3, a former top 10 prospect, and 15th ranked prospect in their organization, according to ESPN. So, what do you think about that deal? How it all ended up transpiring, and where do your side unsung heroes from last year, San Diego Padres, how do you see them capitalizing on all this?
Well, they certainly puts them over the top. 61-46. I mean, this is a team that is going for it all. They just added, like you said, the biggest piece out there. So it's World Series or bust for them now too. I mean, with a 61-46 record before that trade, a couple games before that trade, you're in World Series territory anyway. But when you add a guy like Juan Soto, yeah, they are definitely going all in. And I was looking at the wild card.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing about the San Diego Padres is since the 2020 trade deadline, which was a halfway season for everybody that was involved there with the uncertainty with the revenue and how much money you actually have and taking on big contracts and all those different challenges. One of the main teams that were just gun-ho, like nothing happened, was the San Diego Padres. And ever since then, their off seasons, their trade deadline deals, they've always tried to make an impact. They've always went for the big fish, and they've caught a couple. So right now, and like last year, ended up ending in disappointing fashion. So there's definitely this bad taste in the mouth of the San Diego Padres where they just are so thirsty to make this happen. And now it looks like all the stars are aligning for it to happen this season with Juan Soto added. And then you also have superstar third baseman Fernando Tatis that hasn't even played yet. He's supposed to be back later on this month. So, you're basically adding 2 superstars to the lineup with the record that they have, which was what was the record again? Scott?
But you cut out there for a second. Did you? You
San Diego Padres record was it 61 and what?
Oh yeah, 61-46. They are 11 and a half back of the Dodgers, which it's the Dodgers. Nothing really to be upset about, but they do have a 3.5 game lead on the wild card, and I imagine they will start solidifying that. Yeah, they're not going to catch the Dodgers, no way, but they're definitely a legit playoff team.
Well, then so you're basically looking at the same scenario in the Mets rotation where you added on 2 injured players, and now you have 2 injured superstar players that end up coming back and adding on to the team that's already good, and that's the same thing that's going to happen with San Diego, adding on Juan Soto and then getting a healthy Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back. So yeah, definitely the Padres are going to make some noise this year. I just root for them because of the fact that they've always just swung for the fences. Like they've just always used all the resources they've had. They've been through a lot of losing. They haven't been to the World Series. What was it, 1999 when the Yankees beat them? So like this is a bloodthirsty fan base. This is a bloodthirsty team that is looking to do everything to beat the Dodgers and to end up being a top team in the league. So kudos to them for pulling off the deal. They also actually also got Josh Hader from the Brewers and a lower level deal, Brandon Drury from the Reds. Everything's looking pretty good on their end right now. I just root for them because I just want them to do good and cash in on all these efforts that they've made.
I remember you talking about it last year around this time. So the Brewers, the Padres can be your adopted second team, and I am adopting the Baltimore Orioles right now. In fact, I want them to sneak into a wild card, and I want them to beat the Yankees.
Yeah, I want to say as divisional rivals go, I have over the